Welcome to another parent-teacher video lesson from the earlygiftedmanual.com, a free website for homeschooled children 3 to 7 years old and their parents that promotes and develops giftedness at an early age. I am Gary Blank, the creator of that site, and your host and facilitator for this video and all of the videos in my educational program. As the video lessons are designed to work in conjunction with the program on my website, I ask you to, at some point, click on the URL link in the description box below, and this action will take you to the earlygiftedmanual.com. By doing that, you will be able to put this lesson and all of the video lessons here on my channel in the proper context of the total program that I am presenting to you and your child. Let's discuss how to teach your child to use a pair of scissors. And as you can see, I have this very strange pair out here that I'll just describe to you briefly before we get to the regular pair of scissors. This is called a training scissors, and how it works is your child will put her fingers in there, and notice how I'm doing it. These two fingers go like this and the thumb up here, and you will stand or sit behind her, take the bigger ones here in these two fingers and help her along and show her the how a person cuts through a sheet of paper. And what you want to do when you're using these is you take the lead in the beginning and do most of the work, and then you want to back off and just kind of go along for the ride and see if he or she is getting it. Anyway, that's a pair of training scissors, and like I said, if you use these, you want to work from behind your child, either sitting or standing. And some kids will need that little bit of help, others not, but you'll be able to determine that. Okay, here's your typical pair of 5-inch, I believe they are, child scissors. And well, how does your child use these? First of all, he or she will be able to get her thumb in there and probably 3 fingers. Obviously I'm an adult, I can only get 2 in there. Probably 3 fingers on the bottom. And just let him get a feel for that for a while. Let him go up and down a little bit. See how that feels. And that's how you hold it. Now, how do you cut with these scissors? Well, I think before we do that, I want to show you what you might see when your child has a go at it here with these scissors. One of the things some kids will do is they'll put the scissors on an extreme angle instead of straight on like this. They'll put it on an extreme angle, and it'll make it very hard for them to cut a straight line. It'll get all jagged or whatnot. Another thing children like to do is they like to cut and go all the way to the tip, and as we know as adults, that's not necessary. And then they move up, and you don't have to go all the way to the tip, and some scissors that doesn't work very well. Let's see what else. Some kids are super fast cutters and and they crumple up the paper and they get all kinds of jagged edges. So make sure your child takes his or her time and goes nice and slow with the scissors. Let's see, are there any other things that kids like to do a lot? I think that kind of covers it. Those are the things you will see the most. So let's see, what is the proper way to cut? Well, let me show you. The child is holding the paper on one side. Of course, the child could be right or left-handed, and you have to adjust for that. Let me get a new sheet of paper out here. So the child holds the paper with one hand and places the scissors, and as you can see, they're fairly wide open all the way in the back. They're very straight on, they're not sideways. They're very straight on like this, and once your child comes down and almost gets to the tip, As they're opening up the scissors, they slide it back up to where she ended and start all over again. Back down, not all the way to the tip. As she opens the scissors, slide to where it ended. And on and on and on like that. So, there you go. The proper way to use the scissors. Of course, sometimes kids will like to, they don't want to pick it up. They can cut on the table too by holding it like this, if that's their particular technique. That's kind of up to them, just as long as they're using the scissors, holding it, and making the proper cutting technique. It doesn't matter all that much. And I also need to mention that as your child cuts, I kind of forgot this, it becomes harder to control as it gets farther away from your holding hand. So maybe halfway through here, you might show her a great technique is to switch the hand either to the side up here or to the top to complete the cut. All right. Let's look at some cutting techniques, and I'll show you some things about how kids cut, and you could show them some more efficient ways to do it. For example, let's say a child wanted to cut this shape out of the corner of the piece of paper. Often what children will do will be, first of all, they'll try to hold the paper right here, and as you can see, that's very hard. There's not much to hold, so you can show your child it's better to hold it up here. And they start on the line with good technique, just like we were practicing. And then a lot of kids will try to do this. Or sometimes they move the paper, sometimes they try to move their whole body and cut down like this, which of course is very difficult to do. So one thing you can teach them, let me draw another rectangle here, I guess you'd call it. One thing you can teach your child is that they can cut like this and then come back to the other side, the other edge, cut on the line and meet up with that line. Much easier technique for cutting things out. Same thing with a triangle. Start here, cut all the way to where that line ends, and of course a lot of kids will try to do this and try to come back down, but you can show your child that they can just pull out the scissors and come back here to the edge and cut up this line and meet up with that line. So that's a very important cutting strategy for your child. How about circles? Let's draw a circle here. Of course, it won't be perfect, so there's a circle. What I like to do is, of course, you could cut this circle right out of the paper as it is, moving around. But what I like to do is, I like to encourage children to just make that piece of paper smaller to manage, so they could just do something like this. And now it's a much smaller piece of paper, and they should have a much easier time cutting out this circle. So if your child is right-handed, she wants to be working this way, and I guess that's counterclockwise. Left-hander would be clockwise. If your child tries to go clockwise, it makes it much more difficult to cut the circle if she's going that way, if she's a right-hander. So watch. She cuts, she merges into the line, and that's important. Kind of merges the way a car merges on the freeway. Follows the line slowly, carefully, and look at how I'm moving the paper and not my hand. I'm feeding the paper in to make this cut very easy to make. A lot of kids will hold the paper and try to do this, move their hand around, and of course that becomes very difficult So teach them when they're cutting a circle how to move the paper, not their hand, and go around, follow the line, and then you're right back to the point where you started, where you merged, and there you go, a circle. So that's definitely a technique you'll want to teach your child. He or she may learn that on their own, but it's more likely you'll have to show them these little cutting strategies that you can use. And finally, I just wanted to mention this. Let's say you had to cut out a bunch of different shapes off of one sheet of paper. Let's say there's a circle, square, rectangle. Let's use a diamond. We haven't used that one yet. Of course, your child could, with the whole paper, cut each one of those out separately. But a better strategy would be to just do this, and it's kind of a takeoff on what we did with the circle here. Why not just shrink the size of the paper? So we're putting that aside, and now look, it becomes much easier and to make it to handle the paper, and then to make it even easier still, you can show her that she can individually cut these out, and then it becomes very easy to cut out these shapes. They're not dealing with this large sheet of paper, and it's just, watch how fast it goes. And of course, here's a great technique. You can show her that, she doesn't have to make the turn there. She can cut straight through. Doesn't have to make the turn, doesn't have to make the corner there, cut straight through. So there's some different techniques, some different cutting strategies that you can teach to your child. And I think the last thing I would like to say on this topic is, by all means, do what I did here. Draw some shapes for your child to cut on paper, and kind of go through all these various techniques with him or her, and then, of course, eventually pull away and see how they're doing on their own, and you only want to come in when it looks like they're really needing some help.